Welcome to the course of Wireless Communication and LTE 4G Broadband. In today's session, we will discuss regarding to the module 5, which is data flow, radio resource management and the mobility management. In the particular topic we would be discussing is the mobility management, that is when the mobile or the user equipment is moving from one particular tower to another particular tower, or in technical words one particular E node B to another particular E node B. So, in the mobility management we do have two groups. One, it is called as an intra-LTE. Intra-LTE where LTE stands for the long term evolution, and the other is LTE to the other system. Okay, and basically what we do call it as, we do define it as an inter-RAT. So, in intra-LTE, when the mobile or the user equipment is moving from one E node B to the another E node B, in intra-LTE we do have the two configurations or the two interfaces mechanism in the intra-LTE. When your mobile is moving from one E node B, let us consider this as an E node B, which is called as a source E node B, and we do have another E node B. Let us consider this as a target E node B. When the mobile is moving from the source E node B or the target to the target E node B, so which is called as an intra-LTE, and the interface mechanism of the connection between the source E node B and the target E node B is done by two interfaces. One, it is S1 interface, let us call this as S1 interface, and another one it is the X2 interface. So, in S1 interface, when a mobile is moving from one E node B to another E node B, each E node B has a different mobility management entity. If you take the E node B present here, let us consider this as source E node B, and we do have a target E node B. When the mobile or the user equipment is moving from source E node B to target E node B, and when it is done with respect to the S1 interface, then the source E node B has a separate management entity and the target E node B has a separate management entity. So, if each E node B's have separate management entities, it is done via the S1 interface, and suppose if the source E node B and the target E node B have the same management entity, we will consider it as source E node B and the target E node B, and the source E node B and the target E node B have the same management entity, then it is done when the mobile is moving from source E node B to the target E node B, the interface mechanism which is used, which is called as an X2 interface. So this is with respect to the intra LTE, and when we tell with LTE to the other system, which is called as an inter-RAT, or we can call it as UMTS, which is Universal Mobile Telecommunication Systems, which is in terms of 3G. Then we do use the S1 interface. So that would mean that if your source is of LTE, and again you do have sources of E node B, and your target is of 3G, then this particular source E node B contains different management entity, and the target, which is of 3G tower, which is of different management entity, and the signaling connections or the interface mechanism between the source E node B and the target 3G is done with respect to the S1 interface. So this is about the intra LTE and the LTE to the other system, which is in terms of inter-RAT and the UMTS. So we will see the flow of the signals from the source E node B to target E node B. So we have defined the two interface mechanisms. One, it is with respect to the S1 interface, where each E node B has different mobility management entity, which is the S1 interface, and the X2 interface, where the E node Bs share the same mobility management entity. As we have seen regarding to the intra LTE systems, we do have an S1 interface and the X2 interface, and when we just see the particular flow, we do have user equipment, source E node B, the target E node B, source mobility management entity, and the target mobility management entity. So as we have told before, this is your source E node B. So this particular source E node B has an MME. So basically it is the source MME, as we have told, and we do have the target E node B. The target E node B is defined by the target MME, and your mobile is defined by the user equipment, and the user equipment is moving from the source E node B to the target E node B. It is called as the handover. It is called as the handover. So this flow defines the mobility management over the S1 interface. Okay, so which is mobility management over S1 interface. So we do have three phases in terms of the flow. One is called the preparation phase, another one it is called as the execution phase, and the last phase, what we do call it as the completion phase. The first phase, what we do define it as the preparation phase. Second, it is the execution phase, and the third, we do define it as the completion phase. when we see the process of initiation, the process starts with respect to the handover. As you can just see, the source of communication is between the source E node B and the source MME and the target MME, and from the target MME the communication is defined with the target E node B, and from the target E node B the communication is defined to the user equipment or the mobile, and this is nothing but the preparation phase. And the next which is the execution phase after the handover. So, the data and the status transfer of the source E node B from the source E node B to the target E node B, it is the execution phase. And the last phase, as you can just see, it is an handover of all the communication, that is the data and the status, where you are releasing the source E node B is done with respect to the completion phase. So, these are the three phases in terms of the S1 interface. So, we will just deal with respect to one by one regarding to the phases, and as you can see, once the handover is initiated, handover, as we have told that when a mobile is moving from one particular location to another particular location, where your source E node B should be disconnected and the target E node B should be connected. So, once the network initiates the handover, the target E node B and the target MME should be defined. Okay. So, target E node B and target MME should be defined. So, the source E node B sends an handover request to the source MME, and the source MME forwards that to the target MME for the allocation of the resources, that is at the network side. So, with respect to the allocation of the resources, the target MME sends the handover request to the target E node B for the setting up of the resources. Once the resources are defined, an acknowledgement is sent from the target E node B to the target MME, then E node B or the MME forwards this particular handover message to the user equipment via the source MME to the source E node B to the user equipment. So, the user equipment now is defined with respect to the handover message, and the user equipment or the mobile phone initiates various radio access networks, okay, or the RAN, where it defines the data with respect to the random access channel. Okay. So, that is we do have radio access networks or the radio access technology, where when a particular mobile is moving from one LTE E node B to another LTE E node B, there are 5 events which is in terms of A1 to A5, and when a particular mobile is moving from one E node B to another generation which is in terms of UMTS or inter-RAD. So, we do have 2 events which is in terms of P1 and B2, and this process is done with respect to the user equipment, and it defines the data which defines the various radio access technology operations. And also the source E-node B initiates the status transfer. Status transfer, it is nothing but the data that is defined in the PDCP, which is in terms of the packet data convergence protocol in the source E-node B, and all the data which is there in the PDCP buffer should be transferred to the source MME, and from the source MME it should be transferred to the target MME, and from the target MME it should be transferred to the target E-node B. So in whole, the status transfer is nothing but the data that is stored in the PDCP buffer of your source E-node B should be transferred to the target E-node B. Once the data with respect to the handover and the status with respect to your source E-node B is transferred, so we would be having the radio access bearer which is defined, and this particular radio access bearer provides the communication mechanism between your source E-node B, so the source E-node B and the target E-node B. So as you can just see, so the handover information is sent to the user equipment, and this is called as the execution phase. And in the last phase which is called as communication phase, once the handover is defined with respect to the data and the status, what we are calling it as the radio access bearer. So an handover notify message is sent from the target E-node B to the target MME, and the MME initiates or tells the source E-node B to release the resources of the user equipment. Okay, previously whatever the data that is held with respect to the source E-node B is released now, and all the communication process, that is in terms of the data and the status which is transferred to the target MME, where now your mobile phone or the user equipment, it is connected to the particular target MME. So this is about the S1 interface. S1 interface is nothing but when your mobile is moving from one particular E-node B to another particular E-node B which has different mobility management entity. Thank you. The next interface we would be studying which is called as an X2 interface. When a mobile is connected to the E-node bits, that is when a mobile is moving from one E-node B to another E-node B, but these two E-node Bs have the same mobility management entity. So in brief, if you call this as an E-node B, let us define it as source E-node B, and we have a target E-node B, and this source E-node B and target E-node B have the same mobility management entity, which is MME, and the mobile is moving from the source E-node B to the target E-node B. So the interface mechanism which is done, it is the X2 interface, and we do have a flow of the signals which are disconnected from the source E-node B, and the signals are moving to the target E-node B. And again we have told regarding to the S1 interface, we do have three phases. One, it is in terms of the preparation phase, and next it is the execution phase, and the last we do have the completion phase. So, we will see with respect to the flow of the signals from the source E node B to the target. So, as you can see, with respect to the flow, we do have the user equipment. User equipment is nothing but your mobile station, and we do have the source E node B and the target E node B, and the source E node B and target E node B contains the same mobility management entity, or it is the service gateway. And we have told, so with respect to the flow of the X2 interface, so we do have three phases as we have told. One, it is the preparation phase. Second, it is the execution phase. Third, it is the completion phase. So, with respect to the flow, the process of the handover request to the user equipment is defined by the preparation phase, and the data and the status transfer of the source E node B to the target E node B is the execution phase. And the release of the resources is with respect to the completion phase. So, we will just analyze one by one regarding to the phases of operation. As you can just see, when the handover is initiated from the network, the handover request is sent from the source E node B to the target E node B, and the network sets up the resources with respect to the target E node B, and an acknowledgement of the setting up of the resources is sent from the target E node B to the source E node B, and the source from the source E node B to the user equipment or the mobile for the initiation of handover. Okay, so this is with respect to the preparation phase, and once the handover command or the handover is initiated with respect to the user equipment or the mobile, so the mobile performs various RAN related operations, that is radio network related operations, to set up the resources, and also the performance with respect to the status transfer, that is whatever the data that is present in the PDCP of the source E node B should be sent to the target E node B. So, and this is done with respect to the status transfer from the source E node B to the target E node B. So, once the handover or the data and the status transfer is initiated, so what we do have? We do have an handover confirm message. So, that is initiated from the E node B's to the particular user equipment or the mobile, and an handover confirm message is sent from the user equipment to the target E node B. Now, we do have the radio access bearers, which is an RAB, and the quality of service where the data and the status transfer takes place from the source E node B to the target E node B would be the same. Okay. So, quality of service is dealt with respect to the an example of latency. So, the latency considerations of the data from the source E node B and the target E node B would be the same. Okay. And this is with respect to the execution phase. And the last, what we do have, the completion phase. So, once the handover confirm message is initiated from the source E node B to the target E node B, So as we have told, these two e-node bits would be having the same mobility management entity, and there would be a path switch from the source e-node B to the target e-node B, and this is the completion phase. So where your target e-node B initiates a path switch request from the source e-node B to the target e-node B, and there is an acknowledgement from the MME side where the acknowledgement is initiated, the switch is initiated, and again this particular signal is sent to the source e-node B in order to release any signals that are present with respect to the particular user equipment or the mobile, and all the signals have to be sent to the target e-node B. So this is the operation of the X2 interface, where when a particular mobile is moving from one e-node B to another e-node B, but it is having the same mobility management entity. So in the mobility management entity, so we have seen with respect to the two interface mechanisms with respect to the intra LTE, that is when a mobile is moving from one e-node B to another e-node B, we have called it as an S1 interface. In S1 interface, we have told that each e-node B has its own mobility management entity, and we have told regarding to the X2 interface, where the two e-node Bs have the same mobility management entity. Thank you.